twin moons hung low over the battlefield, cold and silver. The air still smelled of burned metal and old blood. On the edge of the forest, the camp of the Ironfang clan was silent, too silent. Only the Alpha's growl broke through the night. The Alpha's heir was missing, his only cub. His future gone. The guards knelt low, trembling under his rage. "We searched every den, every shadow, every scent trail," one warrior said. "But the trail, it ends near the human camp." The word human was like poison in the air. The Alpha's claws dug deep into the ground. "Find him," he roared. "If the humans have touched a single hair, I will burn their camp to ash before dawn." The pack scattered like arrows into the night. Far away, under a soft light from a human camp lantern, a small creature with silver fur and bright gold eyes was snoring softly. The cub had curled itself into a tight ball, its head resting on a pair of muddy human boots. The owner of those boots, Sergeant Daniel Reeves, was asleep too, his back against a crate, rifle across his knees. He had found the cub hours ago, shivering in the rain near the forest edge. It was small, hungry, and alone. He didn't know it was royal blood. He had wrapped it in his jacket, shared a protein bar, and before he could think twice, the little thing had fallen asleep right on his boots. Daniel smiled faintly in his sleep. "Guess you've got good taste in company, little guy," he mumbled. Back at the Ironfang camp, chaos grew. Warriors came and went, sniffing the air, following faint trails. Finally, a scout returned, panting. "I found something," she said. "Tracks, small ones, leading straight into the humans' camp perimeter." The Alpha's eyes glowed like fire. "Prepare the warband." When dawn came, human soldiers were already awake. Tension buzzed through the camp. Drones hovered overhead, scanning the trees. Then a deep, echoing howl rolled through the air, so loud even the metal walls seemed to shake. Daniel looked up from his boots. The cub was gone. He stepped outside his tent, and what he saw made his breath stop. At the edge of the clearing stood a line of alien warriors, tall, armored, eyes burning yellow. Behind them towered the Alpha himself, every human weapon turned toward them. The Alpha stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You have something of mine, human." Daniel frowned. "We don't steal, sir. Maybe you can tell me what you lost?" A low growl rippled through the alien ranks. Then from behind Daniel's legs came a small yawn. The cub waddled out, still sleepy, still dragging Daniel's jacket around its shoulders like a blanket. It blinked at the Alpha and wagged its short tail. "Papa." It chirped. The Alpha froze. For the first time in years, his mouth opened, but no words came out. The humans lowered their weapons, unsure what they were seeing. Daniel knelt down, resting his hand gently on the cub's back. "He's yours?" he asked quietly. The Alpha nodded once, slow and stiff. His claws flexed. He wanted to be angry, to roar, to tear this fragile-looking human apart. But then the cub leaned closer to Daniel's hand, nuzzling it softly. And something in the Alpha's heart shifted. The human hadn't chained his heir, hadn't hurt him, hadn't even known who he was. The cub had chosen to sleep there on the boots of a soldier. For a long, tense minute, no one moved. Only the wind whispered between them. Then the Alpha said, "You will return to your camp, and you will never come near my lands again." Daniel nodded, understood. He turned, but before he could step away, the cub let out a sharp cry and ran back to him, tiny claws clinging to his leg, refusing to let go. Everyone stared. Even the Alpha died. A low, rumbling sound escaped the old warrior's chest, not quite a growl. Not quite laughter either. "He chooses strange company," he muttered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Guess he likes the boots." The Alpha turned away, cloak whipping in the cold wind. "Take him home," he said to his soldiers, before he decides to bring the human with him. But even as they left, the Alpha's eyes lingered on the man who stood calm before an army and a king. Something about that human felt dangerous, not because of his weapon, because of his kindness. The Ironfang warriors stood at the forest's edge, their armor humming softly in the dawn air. Steam rose from their nostrils as they watched the human camp across the valley. The Alpha's heir had been returned safely last night, but something about the way the cub clung to that human haunted every one of them. The Alpha sat on a stone ridge above them, silent. His claws tapped against the rock. His heir refused to eat, refused to speak, and worst of all, refused to stay in the den. Every time the guards turned away, the cub tried to sneak out toward the human base again. The pack whispered that something was wrong with the air, that the humans had cast a spell. But the alpha knew better. No magic could do this. Only trust could, and that scared him more than any weapon. At the human camp, Sergeant Daniel Reeves woke to find tiny teeth marks on his bootlaces. The cub was back. Again. "Kid, you're gonna get me court-martialed," he muttered. The small alien blinked up at him with sleepy gold eyes, its fur messy and damp with dew. It looked too innocent for the chaos it caused. Daniel sighed. He picked up his comm tablet and tapped a message to his superior officer. Subject, small visitor. Requesting advice before I cause an interspecies incident. Again, a reply came quickly. Reeves, the Alpha's scouts are watching. Keep calm, do not provoke. Do not harm the creature. Understood? Daniel smirked. Yeah, that's kind of my thing, he said under his breath. He tore a ration bar in half and tossed a piece to the cub. It caught it mid-air, tail wagging fast, see? You learn quick, Daniel said, chuckling. But you really shouldn't be here. The cub tilted its head. Here good, it said in broken English. Humankind warm. Daniel froze. The cub had learned words. He crouched down slowly. You can talk now? The cub smiled, tiny fangs glinting. Learn fast. You teach. Daniel shook his head in disbelief. I didn't teach you that. But deep down he knew. Maybe kindness had taught more than words could. Hours later, the Iron Fang patrol burst into the human camp again, weapons raised. Dust and shouts filled the air. Daniel didn't flinch. He stood tall in front of his tent, unarmed, the cub behind him clutching his pant leg. The Alpha himself strode forward, eyes glowing like molten gold. Step aside, human. My heir belongs to me. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. Then take him. But don't scare him. The Alpha blinked. No human had ever spoken to him like that. Not with arrogance, but with quiet courage. You give orders to me? The Alpha growled. No, Daniel said softly. I'm giving you a choice. The pack tensed, expecting death. But the Alpha only narrowed his eyes. Behind Daniel, the cub trembled. Its small claws gripped his jacket. Papa, no shout, it said weakly. Human, no hurt. The Alpha froze. The words hit like a spear to his chest. He looked again at the man before him. The steady eyes, the calm breath, the open hands. No fear, no hate, just control. What do you want with my son? The Alpha asked, voice lower now. Daniel shook his head. Nothing. He found me. He trusts me. That's all. Why? Daniel looked down at the cub. Because I didn't treat him like an enemy. For a moment, silence ruled the camp. Only the wind moved between them, carrying the faint scent of pine and smoke. The Alpha turned away, his heavy armor creaking. Humans, he muttered. Always strange. Then he looked back over his shoulder. If he comes to you again, you will send him back. Daniel nodded. I'll try, but I can't promise what he'll choose. The Alpha's gaze hardened. He is mine. Daniel's jaw tightened. He's his own. For a heartbeat, the two stared at each other, warrior and soldier, beast and man. And though no weapon was raised, a battle had begun. That night from the shadows, the Alpha watched his cub sleep in his den. The little one murmured something in its dreams, a human word. Boots. The Alpha exhaled slowly. He didn't understand why that human haunted his thoughts. But deep inside, beneath pride and fear, he felt something new. Not anger, not hatred. Something dangerously close to respect. Night came quietly over the valley. The human camp glowed with soft lights, machines humming like distant insects. Beyond the fences, shadows moved between the trees. Watchers from the Iron Fang clan. They had orders not to attack, only to observe. But none of them understood why the Alpha allowed this human to live. No one dared question him aloud. The Heir, however, had no such discipline. The little cub crept through the forest again, small paws silent on the moss. It had escaped the den with ease this time. The guards were getting tired of chasing him every night. The cub's golden eyes shone with excitement. It followed the familiar smell of oil, smoke, and something sweet. Chocolate. Soon, it reached the edge of the human camp. Sergeant Daniel Reeves was sitting near a small fire, cleaning a metal ring launcher. He had his helmet off, his brown hair messy, eyes half closed. The ring clicked as he reloaded it, practicing the throw into a bucket. When the cub appeared, Daniel didn't look surprised. He just sighed. You again, the cub tilted its head. You not mad? Daniel chuckled. Mad? No, confused, yeah. You're supposed to be sleeping, kid. The cub padded closer, sniffing the metal ring in his hand. What is this? Training, Daniel said. A game we play. Helps with aim, patience, timing. It's called toss rings. The cub blinked. Game for fighting? Not exactly, Daniel said, tossing the ring. It spun through the air and landed perfectly in the bucket with a clang. It's for thinking before fighting. The cub's ears perked. Think before fight? Yeah, Daniel said, smiling. That's how humans win wars. We play games first. The cub thought about that for a long moment. Its kind didn't play. They trained, they fought, they hunted, but games? That was for weaklings. Still, curiosity burned brighter than pride. Show me, it said. And so, under the silver moons, the soldier taught the Alpha's heir how to play. At first, the cub missed every throw. Rings hit the bucket's side or bounced off the ground. Each miss made it growl and bare its teeth. Daniel only laughed. Easy, champ. You're aiming with anger, not focus. Calm down, breathe, the cub huffed. No calm. I fight better angry. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe, but you win better calm. The cub froze at those words. No one had ever said that to it before. It tried again. This time it took a slow breath like Daniel showed. The ring left its claws and landed perfectly in the bucket. Daniel whistled softly. There you go. Natural talent, the cub's eyes widened. It wagged its short tail without realizing. I win? Yeah, Daniel said. You win. The cub laughed. A strange, deep sound like a small growl mixed with joy. From the forest, 2 Iron Fang scouts watched in disbelief. He's playing with the human? One whispered. The other nodded slowly. No, he's learning. By midnight, the cub was tired, lying beside the fire. The stars above shimmered like silver dust. Daniel sat quietly, watching the small creature beside him. You know, he said softly, you remind me of my nephew back on Earth. Always stubborn, always curious, the cub yawned. Earth, that your packland? Something like that. Daniel smiled. A place full of people who fight too much. And dream too much, the cub blinked sleepily. Dreaming make you strong? Yeah, Daniel said. Maybe stronger than claws. The cub didn't answer. It was already asleep, curled near the warm fire. Daniel stared into the flames for a long time, thinking. He had fought alien soldiers, seen men die screaming, but somehow, teaching this little creature a game felt more meaningful than all his missions. He didn't know that. Far away, the Alpha stood on a cliff, staring down at the human camp's faint lights. A scout approached him quietly. He went there again, my Alpha, the heir. We saw them playing. The Alpha didn't turn around. His voice was calm, low. Describe the game. Small metal rings, targets, strange motions. It looks harmless. The Alpha's claws tightened. Nothing humans do is harmless. He gazed at the stars, their cold light reflecting in his eyes. If my son is learning from a human, he whispered, then perhaps the humans are teaching more than games. That night, beneath 2 moons and 1,000 stars, a cub learned his first lesson. That strategy could be gentle. That strength could be calm. And that the most dangerous teacher in the galaxy wasn't a warrior. It was a human with patience. The Iron Fang training grounds were alive with noise. Metal clashing, claws striking, growls echoing off the valley walls. Dust rose into the air as young warriors trained for the annual trial of fangs, a brutal tradition where cubs faced adults in mock combat. It was meant to remind the young of their place. It was meant to show them they were not ready. But this year, something was different. The Alpha's heir stood among the cubs, eyes sharp, posture calm. His movements were strange, measured, smooth, human-like. The other cubs noticed too. They had laughed at him once, calling him the boot sleeper. Now they watched him lead. Formation. The heir barked. His small voice carried command. The other cubs shifted positions. Instead of charging wildly like beasts, they spread out into a half circle, just like Daniel had shown him. Watch the big ones, he whispered. They're fast, but they can't turn quick. The others nodded, copying his stance. Across the arena, the adults, massive warriors with scars and armor, roared with laughter. Come, little ones, one shouted. Let's see what tricks your human friend taught you. The horn sounded. The ground shook as the adults charged, but the cubs didn't run. They moved as one. The first adult swung his staff, but the heir wasn't there. He ducked, rolled, and shouted, "Left flank, close in." Two cubs darted forward, striking the adult's knees, while another leapt onto his back. He stumbled, confused by the speed and teamwork. The heir signaled again with a short whistle. The cubs shifted, covering each other's sides, just like Daniel's ring toss lessons had taught them. Control the field. Don't waste motion. One by one, the adults fell back. Growling in disbelief, the alpha watched from his stone throne above the arena. His claws scraped the armrest. "What is this?" he murmured. His second in command, a gray-furred veteran, shook his head. "It's organization. Coordination. They move like soldiers," the alpha finished. Below, the heir moved gracefully, signaling with tiny gestures, always one step ahead. The cubs were no longer cubs, they were a unit. The battle ended with a shock. The final adult dropped his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. Silence. The cubs stood panting, their small chests rising and falling. Then one of them raised a claw and shouted, "Victory!" The arena erupted in roars and disbelief. Never in the history of the Iron Fang had cubs beaten adults. The alpha stood slowly, his voice cutting through the noise. "Enough!" The crowd fell silent, his gaze locked on his son. "Who taught you this?" The heir looked up, fearless. "I learned it." "From whom?" The cub's eyes gleamed with innocence and a hint of mischief. "From a friend." The alpha's jaw tightened. "A human friend?" The cub hesitated, then nodded once. "He taught me how to think before I fight. He said winning is not about claws. It's about calm." The warriors whispered among themselves. "Calm from humans?" "Witchcraft." "Treachery." The alpha raised his hand for silence. "You bring human ways into our traditions. You make our warriors question their strength. Do you understand what that means?" The heir met his father's blazing eyes. "It means we can win more than battles. We can win wars." A low growl rumbled through the arena. The alpha's lips twitched, not in anger, but in something stranger. Amusement. "You think you can teach me war, little one?" The cub didn't flinch. "Only if you're willing to learn." Later that night, the alpha sat alone in his chamber. The arena torches burned low. He stared at the claw marks on the stone floor, marks left by countless warriors before him. He remembered how the cubs had moved, so precise, so aware. It wasn't brute strength. It was something more dangerous, discipline, and it came from a human. A soft voice broke his thoughts. "My alpha?" It was the gray-furred commander again. "The elders demand punishment. They say the heir's training is dishonor." The alpha turned his gaze to the window, where the stars shimmered coldly. "Tell the elders," he said slowly, "that dishonor does not win wars." The commander hesitated. "And the human?" The alpha's golden eyes narrowed.
"Keep him alive."
"For now." Outside the walls, far beyond their sight, Daniel sat under the same stars, tossing a ring into the night air. He smiled to himself, unaware that his small lessons had just changed the fate of an entire species. The night after the trial of fangs was unlike any the Iron Fang had known. The usual victory roars were gone. The camp was quiet, too quiet. The cubs had defeated the adults. And worse, they had done it using human tactics. Whispers spread through every den. The heir used tricks, not strength. He moved like prey, not predator. Humans poisoned his mind. Each rumor grew louder, darker. By dawn, the alpha summoned his council. They gathered inside the great stone hall, lit by blue fire crystals. Shadows danced across the walls like silent ghosts. The eldest warrior spoke first, his voice cold. "My alpha, the cub's victory dishonors our kind. Humans fight with deceit. We fight with pride. The young must unlearn what they've seen." Another growled in agreement. "This human, he must be punished. His influence spreads like sickness." The alpha sat upon his throne, silent. His claws tapped the stone armrest. "And yet," he said finally, "those same tricks defeated our best warriors." The council fell quiet. "Perhaps," the alpha continued, "we have been blind to what makes them dangerous." Far from the council hall, the heir sat by a river, skipping stones. Each stone bounced 3 times before sinking. He smiled proudly. Daniel had shown him how to do that. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Wonder if he's training now too." As if in answer, a sound came from behind him, heavy boots crunching over the rocks. The cub turned. There at the edge of the clearing stood Sergeant Daniel Reeves, holding his helmet under his arm. "Hey, kid," he said, smiling softly. "You're hard to track down, you know that?" The cub blinked in surprise. "You came here?" "The guards will already saw them," Daniel said. "They let me pass." "Your dad invited me," the cub froze. "My father?" "The Alpha?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah, guess he wants to talk." Minutes later, Daniel stood before the Iron Fang Alpha himself. The air was thick with tension. Around the throne stood 6 warriors, all armed, all glaring. The Alpha studied him for a long time. "You are the one my son calls teacher." Daniel didn't bow. He just met the alien's eyes and said, "Name's Sergeant Reeves." "I didn't mean to cause trouble." The Alpha's voice was deep and steady. "Trouble is the nature of humans, is it not?" Daniel smirked. "Only when people threaten kids." A low growl rolled through the hall, but the Alpha raised a hand. "You speak boldly, human." "I speak honestly," Daniel replied. For a long moment they stared at each other, leader to leader. The Alpha finally spoke again. "You changed my son. You changed how our young fight. That makes you both a threat and a lesson." Daniel crossed his arms. "I didn't come to change anyone. I just showed him how to think. And now," the Alpha said quietly, "he thinks like you." The air grew cold. The council warriors shifted uneasily. But then the Alpha did something no one expected. He stood, slowly, deliberately, and bowed his head. "To fight an enemy, one must first understand them," he said. "Perhaps the Iron Fang have feared what they should have studied." Daniel blinked. "Are you saying you want peace?" The Alpha's eyes glowed faintly. "Not peace. Respect." Outside the hall, the air waited anxiously. When Daniel emerged, the cub rushed forward. "What did he say?" "Did he hurt you?" Daniel smiled. "No, kid." "He listened." The cub's tail twitched. "He never listens." "Yeah, well," Daniel said, kneeling beside him. "Maybe he finally saw what I did." "What?" "That you're going to change everything." The cub tilted his head. "Change everything?" Daniel grinned. "You already have." That night, the Iron Fang warriors gathered around the great fire pit. For the first time, humans were invited to join them. Some Iron Fang kept their distance. Others approached cautiously. One brave soldier offered a drink to an alien warrior. The alien sniffed it, then drank, and laughed when it burned his throat. Soon laughter echoed around the fire. For the first time, there was no fear in their eyes, only respect. From the shadows, the Alpha watched the mingling of his kind and the humans. He leaned on his spear and whispered, "Perhaps strength is not lost by learning from others." Then, almost smiling, he added, "Perhaps my son's teacher was not an enemy, but a gift." Far away, Daniel raised his mug in silent salute. The cub, curled beside the fire, mimicked him. 2 worlds, once divided by fear, shared their first night of laughter. But somewhere in the dark, beyond the light of the fire, other eyes were watching. And they did not laugh. The valley slept under quiet stars. Human lights flickered on one side, alien fires on the other. 2 camps divided by history, not distance. But that fragile peace would not last long. Beyond the ridges in the cold mountains, another clan watched. The Blood Fang Dominion, rivals of the Iron Fang, had seen the impossible. Cubs defeating adults, humans walking freely among their kind, and the Alpha himself lowering his head to a human soldier. To them, it was not peace. It was weakness, and weakness demanded punishment. Inside the Iron Fang stronghold, the Alpha stood on his balcony looking down at his world. He had spent his life believing that power came from fear, but the laughter he had heard at the fire pit last night still echoed in his mind. It had not sounded weak. It had sounded alive. He turned when he heard small footsteps behind him. The Heir stood there wearing a human jacket far too big for him. "Father," the cub said softly, "you called?" The Alpha nodded. "You learn quickly." "Too quickly." The cub hesitated. "Is that bad?" The Alpha's gaze softened. "No, but it will make enemies." He crouched, resting a clawed hand on his son's shoulder. "There are those who will not forgive what you did in the arena, and they will not forgive the humans who taught you." The cub's ears drooped. "But they helped us." "Not everyone wants help," the Alpha said. "Some only want to rule." Far away, Sergeant Daniel Reeves received a transmission in his tent. The message came from orbit marked urgent and encoded in red. Multiple heat signatures approaching Iron Fang territory from the northwest. Not Iron Fang forces. Possible hostile incursion. Stay alert. Daniel's stomach sank. He knew that tone. This wasn't a patrol. It was a strike force. He grabbed his rifle and ran out into the cold air. Command post! Now, he shouted. Soldiers rushed from their tents, helmets sliding into place, weapons primed. Sir, what's happening? One asked. Daniel's eyes scanned the night horizon. Something big is coming, and it's not human. By dawn, smoke could already be seen from the northern hills. The Bloodfang Dominion had arrived. Hundreds of them. Larger, heavier, their armor black as obsidian. Their leader, Warlord Kor, stood at the front, his massive frame covered in trophies from past hunts. He raised his blade and roared, "The Iron Fang bow to humans! They have forgotten who they are. Tonight we remind them." The army howled in reply, and the ground trembled beneath their march. When the first explosions echoed through the valley, the Iron Fang scrambled to prepare. The Alpha roared orders, warriors forming lines. But this time it wasn't just Iron Fang claws that moved. Humans ran beside them, setting up defense grids, energy turrets, and sandbag walls. The old ways and the new stood shoulder to shoulder. The Alpha climbed the ridge beside Daniel. The human handed him a pair of tactical goggles. "Here, you'll need these." The Alpha raised an eyebrow. "I see with my own eyes," Daniel smirked. "Not like these, you don't." He placed them over the Alpha's face. Instantly, thermal outlines of the approaching Bloodfang filled his vision. He froze. "They are closer than I thought." "Yeah," Daniel said, cocking his rifle. "And they're pissed." The first attack hit like thunder. Plasma bolts streaked through the fog, striking the ground with blinding light. Warriors roared and charged. The air crouched behind a barrier, trembling but not in fear. He remembered Daniel's voice. "Think before fight." He took a deep breath and shouted, "Left flank! Move to cover. Use the high ground." The young warriors obeyed instantly. Within moments, the Iron Fang cubs training, those strange human tactics, turned chaos into order. Even the Alpha stared in disbelief. "He's leading them," Daniel smiled. "Told you he learns fast." Hours passed like fire and fury. By nightfall, the Bloodfang assault began to crumble. Their numbers were greater, but the Iron Fang fought smarter. Every ambush, every trap, every signal came from a child who once slept on a soldier's boots. When the Bloodfang finally retreated, the valley burned red under the setting suns. The humans and Iron Fang stood together among the ashes, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. The Alpha turned to Daniel. "You have my respect," he said quietly. "And my debt." Daniel wiped soot from his face. "Keep your debt. Just keep your people safe." The Alpha nodded slowly. "We will, but this peace, it has enemies far beyond these hills." Daniel looked at the smoke rising into the sky and muttered, "Yeah, it always does." Far above, in the darkness of space, a fleet of unknown ships adjusted their course toward the planet below. A cold voice echoed through the comms of the Bloodfang survivors. "You failed to destroy them. Prepare for Phase 2. The humans will not corrupt another world." Smoke drifted through the broken valley, curling around twisted metal and scorched earth. The battle was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than war itself. Humans and Iron Fang moved among the wreckage together, side by side, wounded and weary. The faint light of dawn touched their armor and the blood-stained ground, turning both silver. Sergeant Daniel Reeves sat on a rock near the ruined barricades, his helmet off, his uniform torn. His hands were shaking slightly, though he didn't notice he had seen too much fire, too much loss. But when he turned his head, he saw the small figure climbing up toward him. A small cub, limping, fur singed, eyes bright. "Kid," Daniel whispered. "You made it." The cub grinned, weak but proud. "We win, right?" Daniel gave a tired chuckle. "Yeah, we did." "You did good, little warrior." The cub sat beside him, then with a small sigh curled up against his leg, just like that first night long ago. Its small claws clung to his boot, and for a moment the war seemed far away. From the ridge above, the Alpha watched. His warriors were silent around him, their leader's gaze fixed on the sight of his heir resting beside the human. Once he would have called it shame. Now it looked like hope. The human had saved his people. The human had saved his son, and the cub, the heir, had become something neither Iron Fang nor human could fully claim. Something new. The peace didn't last long. The ground rumbled beneath them and a shadow passed overhead. Everyone looked up. High in the sky, dark ships appeared, blotting out the sun, sleek, cold, and unfamiliar. The Bloodfang were retreating, but this was something worse, an invading fleet. Daniel stood up, grabbing his rifle. "They're not stopping," he said grimly. "They're here for both of us." The Alpha's voice was low but strong. "Then both of us will stand." The Iron Fang gathered their forces once more, but they were exhausted. Too many wounded. Too little time. The humans worked quickly, mounting cannons, setting drones, forming shield grids. Daniel gave commands with precision, but his tone carried something new. Determination born of love. He wasn't protecting a camp anymore. He was protecting a family, the Alpha noticed. "You fight like one of us," he said quietly. Daniel looked at him, smirked faintly. "Maybe I am." The Alpha's lips curved. "Then you'll die like one of us." "Too. Not if I can help it." They both turned toward the horizon, where the enemy fleet was descending like a black tide. The battle that followed wasn't a clash of species anymore. It was the birth of something greater. Humans and Iron Fang fought as one. The cubs used their tactics, the adults used their strength, and the humans used their strange machines that sang lightning. When the first wave of enemy drones fell, cheers erupted across both sides. "The Alpha roared," Daniel shouted. The cub leapt into the air, landing beside them, shouting commands like a born commander. Every soldier followed that voice, the small, fierce Heir who had once been lost and now led two species in a single cause. When it ended, the fleet was gone, retreating into the clouds, their engines burning trails of defeat across the sky. The Alpha's army was battered but unbroken. Humans and Iron Fang stood together, breathing as one. The Alpha turned toward Daniel, his armor cracked and his fur streaked with soot. "You have earned more than my respect," he said. "You have earned our loyalty." Daniel shook his head. "Keep it for him," he said, nodding toward the cub. "He's your future." The Alpha looked down at his son, the small creature standing proudly atop a broken stone, human jacket still around his shoulders, smoke swirling behind him like a royal cloak. In that moment, the Alpha saw what his people would one day follow, not fear, not strength, but understanding. He placed his massive clawed hand on the cub's head. "The throne is yours when you are ready, my heir, and may you never forget the lesson that changed us all." The cub smiled softly. "That kindness can win wars?" The Alpha nodded. "That humans can too." Later, as night returned and the stars glowed bright again, Daniel sat outside his tent polishing his boots. They were scuffed, burned, and covered in dust, but they still carried one small paw print, pressed deep into the leather. The cub, now dozing near the campfire, was fast asleep. Tail curled, breathing steady. Daniel looked at him, then at the sky. "Guess you found your place, huh, little one?" A soft wind answered, carrying faint laughter through the valley, and under those same stars where it had all begun, the heir of the Iron Fang clan slept peacefully on the human's boots once more. But this time, he wasn't just the Alpha's heir, he was the bridge between two worlds.